Hello students, welcome to another lecture in this series, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce. In this video lecture, we will discuss the symbols and motifs in the novel. So let's get started right away. Let us understand this. What do we mean by symbol and motif? A symbol is an object. It could be a color or an image that represents any idea, while a motif is a recurring pattern of those symbols, images, or ideas that helps to develop a work's central theme. The key difference in the two is the frequency. A symbol can appear just once, whereas a motif must appear multiple times to have a reinforcing effect. For example, blood in Macbeth can be seen as a symbol of violence, but the repeated instances of blood and hand washing form a motif that develops a theme of guilt. In this novel, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, there are three major symbols. The first one, the three major symbols, rose, water, rose, water, birds, and flights images. Let us discuss the symbol of rose. Now, roses blossom at crucial stages of Stephen Dedalus' experience in association with three of his principal concerns: women, religion, and art. They take additional significance in conveying vital changes in attitudes and reactions, which determine Stephens's course on the road to maturity. As the flower of beautiful women, the rose has been allied with both sensual and spiritual love, uh, and its association with the beauty of women is a short step from the association of rose with the beauty of art. This association is, is what is available on the very first page of the book. Stephen sings a song about a rose, a wild rose blossoming, and it's a green rose blossoming. And this green rose symbolizes us. This green rose is suggesting Ireland, while the wild rose is suggesting Stephen, who is at a blossoming stage in his life, and he is rebellious and wild throughout his Irish youth. With the green rose in the child's own version of the song, there is a hint of Stephen's artistic inclination which have been introduced. Stephen's fantasies of Mercedes always have a rose garden for their setting, and the other women in this book are also associated with rose. The white rose, it symbolizes Catholic purity, while the red rose symbolizes passion. Both of them symbolize a conflict between the flesh and the spirit. Stephen identifies the artist with the divine creator and associates the rose with the process of artistic creation. Stephen's conception of art and women seem to be inseparable. Both are aesthetic, sensual, and anti-Catholic. Stephen's rose is the inspiration of his art, the particular woman to whom he is attracted, and the embodiment of his ideal of beauty. Next symbol is water. So flowing water symbolizes a this is an it's an error, please ignore it. A disorderly life of Stephen's parental house and the writer's fancies of his aroused sexual desires. The pressures of a presence subtle and murmurous as a flood leads to the embrace of a prostitute. The sluggish turf-colored water of the Clongowar's bath is associated with the grave and ordered and passionless life of the priest of the college. So the static water, static means something which is stagnant, not moving. The static water and the moist, unsustaining air above it symbolizes an ordered life, and both of these things they repel Stephen. Water is generally disagreeable in the first half of the book, and it is agreeable in the second. The ditch into which Stephen is pushed is the cesspool of the school urinal. The lavatory at the Wicklow Hotel produces a sound like suck when the stopper is pulled up to let the dirty water out. The turf-colored bog water of the bath also repels Stephen. So that is the symbol of water which has been used in the novel. Next we come to the symbol of birds and flights images. Now images of flight symbolizes freedom which is desired by Stephen. There is an image of hawk-like man Daedalus and Icarus from mythology. Please refer to my previous lectures where I have discussed the epigraph. Daedalus, Daedalus's flight symbolizes not only an escape from Ireland, but widening of consciousness and investigation of the unknown. Flight of birds overhead while standing on the steps of the library. Now here also he looks at these birds when he's standing on the steps of library, and that also to him represents some kind of an escape, some kind of a liberty. The girl at sea is also transformed into the likeness of a strange and beautiful sea bird. Again, an image of bird. When Stephen's friends call out his name, we can see that he writes an ecstasy of flight. Again, there's an image of flight that makes his eyes radiant, adds a glow to his eyes. And there is this quote: his soul was in flight. His soul was soaring in an air beyond the world. This was the call of life to his soul. An instant of wild flight had delivered him. So again, there is these images of flight which is there in the novel, which symbolizes freedom for Stephen. End of the book, there's a quote that is a reference to Daedalus. Old father, old artificer, stand me now and ever in good stead. And here there's a comparison of the two flights, that of Daedalus and Icarus, with Stephen's flight from the suffocating environment of his life in Ireland. Now we move on to motifs. In meaning, motif is similar to a symbol. However, it can be defined as a recurrent image or suggestion or idea. It appears again and again like a design in a carpet. In this novel, motifs reveal the inner working of Stephen's mind, and some of the major ones are listed as follows: hands, punishment, eyesight, birds, and flying object. Let us look at the motif of hand, which represents unpleasantness for Stephen. When the director talks to Stephen suggesting him to choose the vocation of priesthood, it is the motives that influence Stephen's decision. Broadly, Stephen has unpleasant memories of his association with priests, and his reaction to the director's hands is, for instance, unfavorable. How? Early on in the novel, when he is at Clongovers, we see Nasty Roche's big hands, and Nasty Roche is the same fellow who taunts Stephen about his father, Stephen's father. Next, we see there's a mention of Stephen's hands become blue with cold. Then we have again another mention of Stephen's parents' hands waving him goodbye. The prefect's hands impressed Stephen as cold and damp, and that was the way a rat felt, slimy and damp and cold. Next, we see Stephen was impressed by Mr. Casey's and Eileen's hand, and even though he liked both of them, their hands were objects of fear. How? Mr. Casey's because his hostility towards clergymen had made him the object of Dante's hatred, and Eileen because she was a Protestant, and Dante told Hom. Dante told Hom. Okay, this is an error. It should be him, Him, him. That to love her would mean eternal damnation. Next we see when the father Dolan cruelly beats Stephen across the hands. Again there's a mention of hands. This motive reaches its climax. So the motive of hands is something that represents unpleasantness for him. Next, we come to the motive of punishment and eyesight. We see that early on Dante threatens Stephen that if he marries Eileen, the eagles will come and pull out his eyes, indicating that sin will be punished with blindness. Next, we see Stephen sees the football on the playground with beak and watery eyes. Stephen's father ironically says to Dante, "Pity the poor blind." Mr. Casey also tells how he had spat tobacco juice into an old woman's eyes, blinding her. Now, there is this motif of birds and flying objects, and these are unpleasant only in the first half of the book, wherein Dante's eagle is waiting to pounce upon Stephen and blind him for any sin. Later on, birds and flying objects become symbols of liberation and widening of the consciousness. Now, we can see that from a contrast which is presented between Stephen's relationships with Heron and Cranley. Now, their namesakes are birds. Heron is a bird and Cranley is derived from crane. Both of them are birds, water birds. In the initial part of the book, Heron intimidates Stephen. He has that power over Stephen. And in the later part of the novel, Cranley has no such power. He is in fact Stephen's confidante. There are a lot of other motifs also. On the first page, we see the minor motifs: road, cow, water, woman, flower, and bird. And roads are sometimes straight, sometimes circular. They run everywhere through the book to the last, where the white arms of roads invite escape. Then there are other minor motifs mentioned further on: dog, heavy boots, light and dark, a sequence of dreams. The first one is of Parnell, the second of goats in private hell, and the third of little figures before great ones in a cave. The motifs unify the book. They show both the motivation for Stephen's change from a sensitive boy besieged by a hostile world to a young man in control of his environment, and the peculiar qualities of mind which, in Joyce's opinion, the young artist must possess. So, uh, those were the symbol and motifs in the portrait of the artist as a young man. I hope it was helpful. In case you have any question, please you can post it and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.